Hey, hope you're having an awesome day. Today is the last year of 5783. And while everyone's focused on their brisket, on the dinners they're having tonight, where they're going for services tomorrow, who's the rabbi, what the sermon will be, the cantor, there's still 7-8 hours left today. And although we're telling everyone Shana Tova, we can't forget about these last hours of the year, because they're so impactful and so important. In fact, today when we went into synagogue and shul in the morning, we said the selichot, the supplications, asking God for forgiveness. But we also said the prayers in the morning where we asked God to bless this year. And we didn't mean next year, we meant this year. You see, my friends, the last day of the year has such a tremendous impact on the whole year that passed and on the year ahead. So instead of saying, let's focus on next year, let's focus on today. But you might ask, what can I do today that's going to be significant? And the answer is like this. Today is a day when we have to think about others. Today is a day when we have to think about our neighbor who might not have a place to be for Rosh Hashanah dinner, or the person that we hurt or might feel slighted by us and call them up, the person we haven't spoken to in a year. Because as Jews, we recognize that while we're going to be in shul tomorrow and ask God to please give me a good new year, we want to make sure that we are doing the same for others. You know, it's interesting because Jews always speak about how we are only 2% of America and even less of the world, yet we're 30% of Nobel Prizes, which is really remarkable. But there's something even greater. I'm not sure if you know, but the Jewish people, although we're 2% of America, we're I think 20% of kidney donors. What does that say about us? That not only are we smart and intelligent and changing the world by accomplishing things, which is very important, but we're also so giving, so caring, and so loving to others. And that is so critical. I said this story about this teacher once asked Johnny, he said, Johnny, tell me, how many kidneys do we have? And he says, 4. And the teacher says, 4? Everyone knows that a person only has 2 kidneys. And the kid looked at the teacher and says, you know, you didn't say how many kidneys do I have. You said, how many kidneys do we have? And we have 4. That's the way a Jew thinks. The entire Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we're going to be in shul, and we're going to ask God, Barucheinu Avinu, bless us. We're going to ask God, Avinu Malkeinu, Shlach Lanu, send us a good year. Send us speedy recovery. We never say I. The whole time we speak is in the plural. Because as Jews, we know that we have to think not just about us, but about our neighbor, about those who need our thoughts, our love, and our care. And that's the beauty of this last day of the year. Because although there's 7 hours left, there's so much we could accomplish by calling a friend who's lonely, by thinking of someone who's alone, by thinking of someone that might feel hurt or wishes to have a relationship with us. Because then when we come to shul tomorrow, God looks at us and says, you know what? This is a person who thinks about others. I'll think about them. I want to tell you one story. You know, tomorrow we're going to come into shul and we're going to say, Shomea Baruch Atah Hashem. We're going to speak about the shofar, actually not tomorrow, but Sunday. And we're going to blow the shofar. And we all know that the shofar is the cry from the inner depth of the heart. One of my favorite stories is the story of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, who one year came over to one of his greatest students, and he said to him, Reb Zev Wolf Kitzes, that you are going to have the honor of blowing the shofar in the shul of the Baal Shem Tov. Now, the shofar is the holiest thing that we do on Rosh Hashanah. And this rabbi knew that he was going to blow the shofar not just for the whole community, but for the holy Baal Shem Tov, who was such a great mystic and Hasidic master and healer and righteous tzaddik. And he went and he spent the whole month of Elul writing down the deepest esoteric meaning in each blow of the shofar and each word we say. And he wrote it down on a note so that when he gets up there and he prays and he blows the shofar, he should have the deepest and most important thoughts in mind. But then the day comes, and it's time to blow the shofar. And he gets up in the shul's packed, and he comes to the middle of the shul by the bima, and he takes out the shofar, and he covers his head in the talis. And then he puts his hand into his pocket to blow the shofar, to get his notes with all the meanings. And he sees that notes are gone. What's he going to do? Everyone's waiting. There's a hush in the shul. And he's devastated. All the thoughts, all the studies that he didn't remember it. It was all on the note. He was going to think about it so he could have the whole community in mind. It was gone. And he blew the shofar. And he was crying. His heart was broken that he had let down the Baal Shem Tov and the whole community by losing these notes and not having the right intentions. After the davening, he went to the corner of the shul to hide. He was embarrassed at the Baal Shem Tov that he shouldn't see him. The Baal Shem Tov will know that he didn't have any of the intentions. And suddenly, the Baal Shem Tov seeks him out on his way out of shul and calls him and says, Reb Zev, I want you to know that the shofar you just blew was the most meaningful shofar blowing I ever heard. And Reb Zev both looks at him shockingly, why? And he says, because there's nothing as great as a humble, broken heart. And that soars to the greatest, highest heavens. As we come to Shalom Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, let us come with humble hearts. Let us come with hearts that are broken about our misdeeds and joyful about the positivity and the opportunity that we have. Let us think of someone else. And together let God bless each and every one of you and us for a Shana Tova U'Metuka. Make sure to hear shofar on Sunday. It's such a powerful, the cry of a Jew that has no words, that reaches his father and mother in heaven. There doesn't need to be a greater power than that. And if you're not going to be in a shul, we have a shofar blowing at Lars Anderson at the Palon at 5:30. That's for everyone. It's short. It's 20 minutes. We'll sing some songs. We'll say some prayers. And we'll blow the shofar. So make sure to hear it. May it be a Shana Tova for you and your loved ones and for all of Israel, wherever they may be.